Hi everyone, if you're an existing subscriber, hello and welcome back. If you're new to my channel, hello, welcome, and why not hit subscribe now? I'm your host Alicia Victoria Keane, and I've been interviewing inspirational people and businesses to find out how and why they inspire others. This week I interviewed podcast host, presenter and songwriter Joe Holmes. Here's how it went. Hello, welcome to the channel. To begin with, if you could just introduce who are you and what do you do?
Hi, I'm Joe Holmes. I'm an 18-year-old writer, songwriter, and I'm also presenting. I currently have a music podcast called Making Waves that's going out on Spotify as well as radio. And yeah, I write songs. So at the end of November, there's a song I've written coming out. So I do lots of different things. And I think at the moment, I'm sort of realizing that I may do too many things at once.
Yeah, that is a lot of things to do. Where do you see that all taking you in the long run?
It's hard to know. Like anything, it's hard to know where you're going to end up and what paths you're going to take along the way. I think at the moment, I've really been pushing to do some presenting things and I'm writing a novel. So I'd love to publish the novel and become a published author, but I don't just see me being one thing. I like to do so many different things that I feel like if I publish a novel, I won't just be an author. I'll have to do other things with my time, like present music. I love working in music, whether I'm like music managing, so I'm managing a release or writing a song. I can't picture me doing one thing. And if I go down like a more career route, I'd still be doing everything I do outside of that.
So, just prior to like we started filming, you also said that you had lectures all day. So, is that at uni as well? So, what are you doing at uni?
Yes, so I'm currently studying creative writing at Essex Uni, and I'm doing that because I'm writing the novel, and I really want to improve my writing and get the novel finished, but make it the best I can too. And I thought if I'm in a place where there's lots of other people writing and improving their craft, then I will improve too and learn how to better edit, pick up different ideas, and eventually publish it, I hope, in the next 3 years.
Also, linking to you writing the novel, you're also quite into your poetry as well. How did you get into poetry? Because I mean, for a lot of young people, they don't really enjoy poetry overly. So it's quite nice to hear that, you're only 18 and you do enjoy poetry.
I think that's an interesting one because I don't know if I enjoy poetry or I like the release of writing poetry. I feel like I don't know if I enjoyed studying it or not. I feel like in school studying poetry, I felt the same way as everyone else did. So let's not start putting me into the likes poetry box because then I feel like that makes me seem like I sit there reading poetry, but I don't. Now, how I got into that, it was a bad breakup, not gonna lie. And what happened was I wanted to vent about it and I wanted to write songs about it, but I couldn't sing. But I still wanted to write the songs. So the concepts I sort of took ideas and emotions that I was feeling and I wrote them down and I also sort of conceptualized them into like this idea that could be a song or a poem, but the songwriting wasn't viable then. So that's when I really wrote down the poetry. And so in January, actually, I published a poetry book, which was by the demand of my Instagram followers, because I was putting out these little chunks of poetry, whether it was with an Instagram post or otherwise. And I decided I would compile my phone note section, which was random notes and poetry, all related to this one film of sort of healing and sort of bettering yourself after something sad's happened. So I put that all together and I put out a poetry book in January called Healed by Creation. And it was only a little exclusive thing, but it was just a good moment to say that I published that and people actually bought it. This month, someone bought a signed copy, and it's just lovely to have that. And people message me and say it helped them, and so I don't know what else to say. I feel that that's a success no matter what scale.
You've obviously helped like quite a few people by publishing that book, and although it was self-help yourself whilst you were going through the bad breakup, how does that make you feel that you've actually helped others and inspired others?
Honestly, it's the nicest thing, and I feel like we've all got to contribute something. I feel like the world at the moment, and the world in general for all of time, it can be a very divisive place, and I feel like we all need to give that little bit of kindness, and the kindness can help other people. And if me writing about something and sharing about something helps one person, then maybe they will do the same and help another person. So although it's an amazing feeling, like I've done something really good, I almost feel like it's my duty to do that, because sometimes when I share these things, I get backlash, right? So I will post about feeling depressed, and that would be in the past. I Now I've got the tools to deal with that effectively. But when I talk about things that I suffered, I get backlash from people like, don't post that everywhere. That's a private thing. You shouldn't be talking about like anxiety. Don't talk about it. It's a private thing. And I'm like, hang on a sec. If what I'm doing is going to help people, it doesn't necessarily matter what people think of me. Even if people really close to me don't understand it, or they think it's wrong, or they're even embarrassed by it. I've got to admit, some people are embarrassed by me sharing. But hey, I can look at what I've done. I can look at my successes and think that, you know, I've done well. It doesn't matter what I've been through to get there. That should just make me even prouder. And so by helping people, it's made me care less about what people think about me doing that, because I know what I'm doing is right.
You said that everyone should be able to spread a little bit of happiness. How does someone go about doing that? Where do they start?
I feel like helping other people and giving that little bit of happiness and kindness can start on a very, very small level. Something like liking someone's post and commenting, or sending them a message, can go a long way and really start off a good thing. And what I like to do is, if I see, say, like an artist or someone working towards something, say like you with your interviewing and your YouTube channel, I know if I comment on your video or one of your posts, that will really make you feel better about what you're doing, because we all have these things that we're working really, really hard on, and it can be really, really off-putting and challenging when we don't get the response we like desperately want. Because I think whatever we make or whatever we put out there, we all have high hopes. And if you're the person that is the person in the front row of the crowd cheering and clapping for that person, that's going to really help them, and that's going to make them happy. That's the bit of kindness that really helps. And on other levels, I mean, I feel like where we are now, going into lockdown again, sending people messages, giving them a call, even if it feels wrong, even if it feels like I'm just doing this out of nowhere, this person's going to be really confused. Get rid of that social stigma and just send them a message, because there's nothing going to be harmed or lost by doing that.
I think you're completely right. I mean, it's about everyone coming together as well, isn't it? Especially, like you say, during these times, during these lockdown times, everyone coming together to help each other. And we are seeing a lot of people trying to like make something of themselves during their time off as well. So if you can give them a little bit of support and help them back, then yeah, definitely. I'm completely with you on that one.
Good.
How do you cope? I know you said there briefly about when people do comment negative stuff, that you kind of see it as you are helping other people and that's what gets you through. It's very rare that someone does actually think like that. How do you get to thinking like that?
You're exactly right. How do we feel like that? And I'm not sure I even do. I'm saying it now because we're in an interview and we're in a space where we've got to say what we know is right. And I'm saying that I should know it's right, and so it shouldn't bother me. But in a way, that's true, but it's also a lie, because it does bother me, like it would bother anyone. Any sort of negativity, or even there's just a lack of positive, it leaves a negative space. it leaves an empty space, it leaves this negative space. And if people don't fill that negative space with like kindness and praise, then it does feel really challenging and it does feel really hard. And yeah, I I'm willing to open up about this, but I feel like whenever I put something out, whether it's a book or whether we release a song, no matter how happy I am on the day of the release or however pleased I am at people's responses, there's always that little bit of depression that not necessarily that it could have gone better. I almost feel like every time I do something, it's never good enough. And I'm in a really sort of negative place where I almost have to ask people, is that good? Is that good? Because it almost feels like we need that satisfaction of someone telling us that we're doing well. Otherwise, we don't have the strength to know that we are. And having that strength is really difficult. Sometimes I have that strength, but other times I don't. And especially when I actually put the things out, my podcast, Making Waves, I know when every time I release one of those episodes, I'm almost going hide. And I think my main strategy at the moment is going for like a really long walk with my headphones in, listening to my music. So I'm not on my phone watching how many people have watched it or listened to it or who's commented. It's just, yeah. So although I know it's wrong and I know it's the right thing to know you're doing the right thing, it still doesn't really change.
Do you think it comes down to that saying, it's okay not to be okay?
Yeah, I think so. And it is okay not to be okay. And I mean, the next song that I've written on that's coming out on the 20th of November, I wrote with my friend Shabs and I produced that song and it's called Wake Up Crying. And I thought, oh, hello, another cheery song we've written. But really what the song is about, and I wondered a long time what it is actually about, because although I wrote it, you sort of think, how are you going to present that? How are you going to, when people ask what's it about, what are you going to say? And last night I was filling in a form for Spotify where I had to sort of describe the song, and what I put is that it's about those negative moments where in the world when you might feel anxious or stressed and you might wake up in the middle of the night crying, but the song, the chorus, it does repeat the phrase, I wake up crying, and it's almost an acceptance. It's almost like, say it, tell people you're feeling that way, acknowledge it, tell yourself you feel that way, tell others you feel that way, and then you can get help, or sometimes just the satisfaction of admitting something really can help you. So with the chorus, it sort of repeats, I wake up crying in the background, and I feel that it's sort of an acceptance, and it's sort of a, saying it out loud gets it out there and makes you realize what you're doing and makes you realize how you feel. And that can take some of the strain and pressure off. And I know that by admitting things, it helps us understand why we feel a certain way. Other people really does help, even though if they can't do anything to help you, sometimes just by telling them that just that simple act can make all that much difference. And I know with my anxiety, if I tell someone, oh, I was really anxious about that thing we just did, then although they can't really change that and I can't change that, by saying it, it helps me understand how I operate. And understanding how we operate can then help us in the future to sort of understand ourselves and go forward with that extra bit of knowledge.
Do you think it's the case that not many people do talk about anxiety and depression, and it's almost, I don't want to say frowned upon because it's not necessarily frowned upon, but it's more of the case, if you do talk about it, then you're kind of admitting to yourself about it, which, so then it kind of goes around in a big circle that then you don't really want to talk about it because then all of a sudden it becomes reality.
That's definitely part of the, like, a psychological theory, when by saying something you speak it into existence, even if you don't have the clinical diagnosis, even if someone could contest the fact you have anxiety, you must feel some sort of way to have to say that. And we all have different scales. It's like pain thresholds. None of us feel pain to the same extent, and there's no way of proving that because there's no way of measuring with numbers an emotion. So, for example, I know with neuropathic pain, people feel that on whole different levels, and we don't have a right to contest how people feel. So whether they just feel depressed or anxious, or whether they actually are, they still need help for some reason or another.
I agree, and I think that's what we probably as a society don't really accept, that people do get this feeling, and if they do get this feeling, then they do need help, or they do need someone to talk to. Just because they've not been diagnosed doesn't mean that it's not there. Personally, I think it needs to be spoken about more in society. Going back to your breakup, how did you get over that? Was it the case of writing stuff? Was that what helped you? I'm just thinking, for someone who's watching this, if they're in the same position as what you were, say, 9 months ago, what would you say to them?
I think I would say find a way of processing it and find a way of understanding it. I think what really helped me is when someone told me the best way to get over something or understand how you're feeling is to simply write. Soldiers with PTSD, they're told to keep like a diary, or they're just told to write exactly what they think and feel. And I feel like that's a good practice for anybody. I mean, people say do journaling, meditate, but I feel like no one ever feels like doing those things. But when I was really upset, and this was going back a while now, and that was only a couple of rare times, I opened up a Word document and I just typed, and I've still got that Word document and I've read it, and I don't know. I'm a writer. Like I write novels, but I didn't know I was that bad at typos when I was emotional. So I know never to write a novel when I'm crying, but it just goes to show that how we feel doesn't last forever. So no matter how bad you feel, it can only take a year. Like it can take a couple of days, and you can look back and laugh about it. I feel like with the last song I released with Shabs, it was called Unsent, and it was about a letter that I'd written to an ex, and I didn't send it, but I wrote it, and it was like one of these heartbreak, I don't know, like I still love you letters. And I listen to the song now and it takes me back to how I feel, but there's this disconnect because I don't feel that way anymore. I almost like laugh about it. It reminds me of how I felt, but I just know that I've gotten through that. And in a way, the song makes me happy because it's overcoming something. And I know that I've changed how I felt, and it's almost physical evidence that I have. So you might not write a song about how you feel, because I'm pretty sure that's not happened very often. But if you just write down how you feel, and then next week read how you feel and see if you still feel as bad, you might find that you feel better. And if you don't, over a long course of time, then I'd recommend going seeking help. But if you do notice the improvement, it helps you put on a scale where you're at.
That's a great bit of advice for people watching this, most definitely. And something, again, what I've personally read more recently, it was exactly the same about writing. And it was saying about like daily gratitude. And, if you write down, even if it's one word that you're thankful for every single day, over the course of a couple of weeks, it will eventually get easier.
Yeah, and definitely, I think it's all well and good like preaching during these daily practices, but I think a lot of us always like go into the mindset of doing them, but we don't actually do them. And so I feel like it's really important to say that I tried lots of methods, and at one point I did like some daily meditation thing with like friends and stuff. But I have to admit, like, although I do all these different things to process with things, some days I lied and said I did it when I didn't do it. I just didn't. I didn't sit down for 15 minutes still and listening to the meditation person speaking in my ear. I just didn't find the time, or sometimes you just don't feel like doing things, and that's okay too. Sometimes we just need a rest. We just need to shut out, and so we can just do other things. Whether you just go for a walk, or walking your dog is a great thing to do if you just want to take your mind off something.
Moving on to your podcast, What do you do? Explain to the viewers, what is it exactly that your podcast is about?
Yeah, let's lighten the mood a bit now. And yeah, so the podcast really is all about celebrating up and coming music artists and really diving that little bit deeper into what they do and what they write their songs about. My first guest on the show was a star of TikTok with over like 2 million followers. She's taken it by storm, and I knew her before she had all of those followers. And so I really wanted to break down the emotional level and how it feels like trying to be yourself with all those people watching and trying to like keep that sense of comedy and authenticity. And so that was a really deep emotional conversation. So I feel like that's what the podcast is about. It's about taking these musicians and these artists and using my perspective as a songwriter and as a writer and as an artist to get inside their heads. And someone likened it to a therapy session. They heard me talking to, say, the second guest, Hunter Blair Ambrose. We were talking about her music video November. She filmed it in a bar where her and her ex were like first met or something, or when their first date was, and that was like quite an emotional thing. So, so I really wanted to dive into sort of how that feels, because not many people are in that position, and when you are, it's just good to get inside people's heads and to know that whether you've got 2 million followers or 200 followers, we're all human beings.
We are. No, we definitely are. So you say it's like mainly musicians. How come you decided to go for mainly musicians opposed to just the random people?
I love music, and I wanted to make a space where we could share their music and get it out there, because releasing songs, I know how difficult it can be. And so on the show there's the interview segments, but in between there's songs and performances. So sometimes people record like a special acoustic session, or just play their song. It allows them to tell their story and give their music in a simultaneous place. So their fans might have heard their music already, but in the middle they get their story, and people might listen just because it's an interview, but then they get their music at the same time. So I wanted to boost the artist, because I know how difficult it can be, but I also know that it's something I'm passionate about, and I know it well enough about that I can go into that interview, and of course I get like scared about the interview, like, am I going to connect with this person? Am I going to really be able to ask them the right questions? What happens if I freeze up and stop knowing what I'm going to ask them next? But I feel like because it's the musicians and because I've been there, that I sort of know what to ask next, because I know what I'd ask myself next. So I asked the last guest, with the episode hasn't come out yet, but I wanted to ask about the struggles of getting the exposure, because the first two guests had really lucky breakthroughs, in the sense that one got TikTok famous and the other got linked to Lady Gaga's songwriting page and blew up overnight. But the third guest is an Essex lady. She's a country singer, and she's done well. She's been played on the radio, but there's still like, we always want that little bit more success, and we always compare ourselves. So I wanted to talk about that, and I feel like that when people say on the radio, if she goes on the radio station and they ask her, they're going to talk about like, oh, your song's amazing. We all have that awareness. Like when someone says, oh, your book's amazing, what we really want to ask them is, are they happy with how many copies their book sold? And it's a horrible thing to ask, but if you do it in that right way, it breaks down those walls between people. It's difficult, because I know that sometimes in that part with, but I know if people know I'm going through that challenge, they'd be more inclined to help. So by sharing that artist story of potentially struggling, people will help them out, and people might feel like, oh, when I see an artist that needs help or needs a boost, then they might be more inclined to do that.
So where can people listen to your podcast?
It's on Spotify, and you can find it through my Instagram, which is Joe Holmes 2002. But yeah, it's on Spotify and it's on my YouTube, which is Joe Holmes. The podcast is called Making Waves with Joe Holmes, but just so you don't spell that wrong, Making Waves is spelled WAVS, Because of the waveform of music. So music, when it's uncompressed, is called a wave file, so it's WAV. So I wanted to like do it so it was a music interview that's uncompressed. I don't cut bits out. I skip straight to like the deep end. So we still have those highs and lows. And so it's uncompressed. It's a wave file. It's making waves. So I thought I'd make a little pun. But it is funny though. Whenever I type it to someone, they're like, "Oh, I think you spelled it wrong." I'm like, "I'm a writer. I don't spell things wrong."
Love it. So for anyone watching this, definitely go and check out Joe's podcast. Earlier, you also mentioned about the radio. Where does that all fit in?
It started when I released a book in January and I was asked to go on BBC Essex. And since then, I've probably been on the radio about 10 or 15 times. I just take any opportunity that comes. I say grab it, you know. You don't know what chances you're going to get in life, but if you get those chances, go for it. And last month, I was in London doing a presenter training course with Helen Scott, who is the presenter on BBC Essex. She was the one when we were allowed to go inside the radio studio and do the interviews. She was the one in there. So when she did a presenter course, I joined up and it was amazing. And now I'm pursuing presenting, and I've always done interviews on, say, like YouTube, like you have. And so I love doing that, but I wanted to get that bit more experience and skills, and hopefully I'd love to present on radio. And today I got further in that small victory. I applied for a role at the uni media, and they've made me podcast and videocast officer. And that's not bad considering I've been going there 3 weeks.
Fantastic. Well done, you. That is brilliant. Huge well done. And you found that out today, did you say?
Yeah, I found out today. And I also found out I won an award that I was nominated for by my college, because I did a lot of work on the student magazine there. And so I was nominated and won the Essex County Newspapers Award for Communication, I think it's called. So that was pretty cool. So like it's cool. It comes under like a regional award. So I just got the letter and I thought, okay then, I'm doing good today. I can put my feet up later.
I was gonna say, I hope you're celebrating. That's fantastic. Huge well done. It's been great speaking to you. Finally, I have 10 very quick questions.
Yeah.
Right, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm scared I'm ready because you got a script.
Shh, don't tell them. Right, music or novel writing?
Music, because I have to say I enjoy listening to music than reading. Don't tell anyone.
Who's your favourite singer?
Lady Gaga in every way. She's one of my favourite people on the planet even. She's just, I hate to say inspiring, but she's pretty inspiring.
That leads quite nicely on to my next question, really, because I was going to say biggest inspiration.
Yeah, Lady Gaga. But then I like to say that, I always like to say when people ask me what my biggest inspiration is, I say that we shouldn't compare ourselves and we should be inspired by ourselves to better ourselves. So that's a bit of a cheesy answer.
Oh, I like that. Podcast or radio?
Radio, I feel like there's the fun of it being live, and I don't have to edit it then. You know, if you make a podcast, you have to always chop all the pauses out. If someone stutters or says like, I'm just like, delete. But on radio, you can't do that. You get one shot and you mess it up, so more fun.
Definitely. Completely random. I told you they're going to be random. Curly fries or smiley faces?
Curly fries, because you can't eat smiley faces, but then I should say smiley faces because like the whole happiness and kindness thing.
Man, you know the little potato things?
No, I don't. Well, yeah, I suppose I do, but I say curly fries.
Okay. What's your go-to outfit?
Well, as you can see, I wear blue too often. I don't know why. It's just a go-to colour, but I like to spice it up a bit. I don't know if I've got a go-to outfit, but I do like dressing up smart in a suit, although there hasn't been much calls for that this year.
I know, it's been a bit rubbish, isn't it? But what's your favourite podcast to listen to?
Favourite podcast to listen to? It's interesting. I like Zane Lowe's podcast that he does for Apple Music, and he talks to the bigger stars about their music, and that's sort of what inspired my own podcast. I think he talks to different stars breaking down their next releases. So I feel like that's my favourite podcast.
Okay. Tea or coffee?
Coffee, although I drink tea more than coffee. I've got bored of tea now. I got bored of coffee and now I'm bored of tea, so changes.
Sun or snow?
Sun, as long as it's not too hot.
How does that work?
Well, the sun can be out and it can be cold, so, you know.
That's true, I'll let you off. And writing or producing songs?
Writing, definitely. Writing, I find a lot. I'm not a producer, but give me a computer and it will sound okay at the end of it.
Well, that's the end of my 10 quick questions. Thank you very much for joining me today. It's been great having you on.
Thank you so much for interviewing me. And I feel like this interview was really nice because we really dove deep into sort of everything. I feel like it was really good and it was fun. We had the fun, we had the 10 questions, and at the start we had the whole like depression, anxiety, but we covered that, and I hope anyone who listens to this can enjoy listening to an honest conversation. And obviously follow Alicia on social media, support her videos, subscribe to her, and also you can find me, I'm Joe Holmes 2002 on Instagram and Joe Holmes Writer on Twitter.
It was really great to speak with Joe about how he got into songwriting, and one of the most important messages that we can learn from that interview is that even if you don't feel okay today, tomorrow's another day and that feeling's not going to last forever. Things will get better. Now you can follow Joe at the links here. If you have someone that inspires you, comment below. I'm always so interested to find out who others find inspirational. Likewise, if you have an inspirational story to tell or think your story could help others, comment below, drop me a message on social media, or even drop me an email. On Sunday at 4 o'clock, I'll be speaking with Simon and Alison about completing the longest trail in America and finding out about their challenges they faced along the way. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, comment below, let me know what you think, and don't forget to hit subscribe. See you all on Sunday. See you later.